This is John Vine, and I'm here in Bert King's apartment talking to him. Could you introduce yourself, please?
My name is Bert King. I live in Chevy Chase, Maryland. I'm married to Susan King and have 2 children. And I have Parkinson's. I've had Parkinson's going on my 16th year.
What distinguishes Parkinson's from other diseases? I know when we spoke earlier, you mentioned that it's not like many diseases in this respect. You can't just go to a doctor, he prescribes a pill or says he'll conduct an operation, and you go on your merry way.
Right. I think Parkinson's requires learning some new skills and requires those around you that you interact with to adapt to you. And it touches so many aspects of your life. Eating, travel, walking, your memory, vision. It really touches a lot of what you do.
Can you rely on doctors to do everything for you, or does it depend more on the patient?
It depends more on the patient from my perspective, it depends more on the patient than most other diseases. First of all, not a lot of doctors know about the disease, and sometimes they're misinformed. Just as my doctors, when I went to ophthalmologists to ask about the effect of Parkinson's on my eyes, my eyesight, the first 2 ophthalmologists I went to said there is no linkage. And we know that for a fact, there is a linkage. You can't rely just on doctors. You have to do reading, research, talking to other people.
Does that make a support group very important?
For me, it makes it critical. Sharing information. When my doctor says, take this pill 6 times a day, and I'm getting a reaction to the medicine that the doctor is not used to treating, and I don't find in books, the only other answer is to call on other people that have had experience with it. And know that just as you inquire about their life, they're going to probably inquire about yours. And it creates a community, a caring community.
You've belonged to a support group for how many years?
About 15 years.
You attend regularly?
I attend regularly, yes. It's amazing considering the suites that we have there. I'm not overweight, but it's become something I look forward to.
But it's not just because it's social activity, it's because it's useful.
That's correct. That is correct. And it's not just because of the sharing of information. It's replaced some other social activities in my life.
You talked about social isolation earlier. What do you mean by that?
Well, if you want to do something with someone, and you call them up and say, okay, I'll meet you at noon at such and such restaurant. It's difficult to do that with Parkinson's because you don't know how you're going to be feeling at noon. So if you make it, if your medicine is fully active, and at noon, great, you can go about your activity. But if you just took if your medicine wore off at 11:45, and you just took your medicine at 11:50, you won't at noon. You won't be able to fully participate in any activity.
Are you less social now that you have Parkinson's than you were before?
That's a good question. I've always been some of an individual I think I'm not so much a loner as much as I don't do activities with other people as much as I used to do it.
Because you can't make plans on which you...
Right, it's difficult for me to know. In other words, the closer the time of the activity to the actual time that we're speaking about it, the more I can predict my feelings. But if you say, Bert, next Tuesday is this great speaker coming, let's go hear him, I just don't know how I'll feel on Tuesday. Now, that's true for anyone, but it's particularly true for Parkinson's. So what you need to do to overcome it, you need to explain to your friends the impact of your medication on your ability to do activities. And hopefully they'll be patient.
So it's not just a matter of taking medication and doing what the doctor says.
That's right. Well, the doctor doesn't always say.
The doctor doesn't always say what?
He doesn't always say what to do.
So you have to figure that out for yourself?
You have to, well, it's been my experience that you have to probe the doctor with questions when you have a session with the doctor. You need also a representative, someone to ask questions of the doctor, someone to take notes, and someone to ask about the impact on people and what to do if it doesn't work right. How do you know it doesn't work right? I think everyone needs some sort of help. Especially, a lot depends on you with respect to an exercise program. Because exercise has been shown to ameliorate some of the symptoms. I know when I exercise regularly, for 20 minutes a day, I feel much better than if I don't exercise. But it takes a certain single-mindedness, a certain focus that before the Parkinson's made itself known, we should have had, but it's hard to have. And now with the Parkinson's, it makes it even more difficult to have that focus, to set aside 20 minutes a day for the rest of your life doing exercise. It's like someone saying, okay, Bert, you're going to have to eat an orange and a grapefruit every day for the rest of your life. Pretty soon you'd hate oranges and grapefruit. And it's knowing that you have to exercise, but knowing that if you don't exercise, you're going to feel like an old shoe. I think you have no choice.
And I look at it a little differently. I exercise every day, but I don't tell myself I'm going to have to do this every day for the rest of my life. I think I'm going to do it today. Tomorrow is another day.
It's great.
But we each look at it in our own way and somehow manage to exercise regularly. I do, and I know you do.
When I was first diagnosed, you hardly saw the symptoms. I went to 3 doctors before I could find one that knew what Parkinson's was.
It's a very common experience. What made you so persistent?
I read an article in the Washington Post that about Parkinson's and described the symptoms. And I said, holy crow, this is me. And I went to my regular doctor and he said, Bert, I'm not a neurologist, but it could be. And he sent me to a neurologist who said, I think it is, but I'm not an expert. So they sent me up to someone in Baltimore, and he said, you got Parkinson's, but there's nothing you can do about it now. see what happens. Well, there was something I could do about it, and that was exercise. And I spent probably 2 weeks calling trainers, personal trainers, to find someone that had experience with people with Parkinson's. It was just, it was just amazing. I kept calling, and I couldn't find someone that had the experience. I finally found someone. She had worked in a circus, Mingling Brothers. She had been a ballet dancer, and she had been a personal trainer and also familiar with yoga. And she worked with me so that I had a book of exercises, and I would spend an hour with her twice a week, and then on the off days, I would exercise on my own. And this is going to surprise you, but after a few years, I felt better physically than I ever felt in my life.
Better than you did before you had Parkinson's.
Yes, it was amazing. The Parkinson's, my treating it would make me feel better. Because I had never had an interest in sports and never exercised. And other than walked a mile and a quarter, mile and a half every day. And I attribute a lot of my good fortune to that early work with that trainer.
What strikes me is you're also very persistent. Persistent in finding a doctor that could help you, persistent in finding a trainer, and persistent in doing the exercise. Is that fair?
Yes, I would say that. And I think my family would say that too. Stubborn might be a better word.
Persistent.
Okay.
Bert, what do you know now that you wish you had known when you were first diagnosed with Parkinson's?
How the disease would impact my relationship with my wife. That's unique for everyone who's married, and took a lot of learning from by both of us. We had to sell our house that we lived in. It was a gorgeous house that we built. I loved working in the backyard. It was my escape. And it was very hard for me to sell the house. I'm a collector of things. I had to get rid of a lot of my collections. The move was extremely stressful.
But you're glad you did it.
Yes, I am. Yes, I am. I might miss my house, but I'm very glad I moved. I think that if you wait, if you know in the future you're going to need to be in a certain situation, and if you wait till the time is right for you to be in that situation, you might not be able to do it. But if you take action before you need to take action, then you're in charge. In other words, if you wait to your house, you cannot move around your house because of stairs or something like that. If you wait till you need exercise and stretching every morning, you're going to have a much more difficult time than if you get ahead of it and don't wait for it, but do it in advance.
It seems to me what you're saying is Parkinson's rewards educated, informed, and proactive.
Proactive, definitely.
Bert, thank you very much.
My pleasure.